As the sun sets across the battlefield, the shadows elongated by the sunshine, the White Scars Space Marines will face off against the Dark Eldar, and Corsair alliance as they try and capture as many slaves as possible. Sean brings his army once again to the SkaredCast channel. Let's get this bloodbath started. Okay, let's get started. 1,500 points of Dark Eldar primary detachment, Eldar allied detachment, and Corsairs raiding detachment against White Scars with an assassin. So we have a Vindicator assassin that is infiltrated onto the top of this building, a tactical squad, 5 with a combi melter in a rhino, a Forge World Dreadnought with 2 assault cannons, the other part of the combat squad next to that objective with a rocket launcher, a White Scar command squad with the Banner, Furious Charge and Fleet with a captain, a Thunderfire cannon hiding in that building over there, 5 scouts in a Landspeeder Storm that have taken that objective. In reserve we have a drop pod with a Biomancy Librarian level 1 with the Eye of Amazingness. And that is all she wrote. We're playing Mission 1 of Maelstrom, so 3 cards at the start of every turn. The Dark Eldar also brought a Highlander style list. So we have Warp Spiders, Trueborn with 2 Splinter Cannon, 5 Witches in a Venom with dual cannons. Then we have 10 Cablite Warriors with a Splinter Cannon here. We have a Ravager with 3 Lances, a Raider with 4 Grotesques, and then a Prince and an Autarch in there as well. Then we have 3 Scat Bikes back here and 5 Scourge with 4 Haywire Blasters. In reserve we have 8 Corsairs with jetpacks, 2 Fusion and a Baron. We have a Lamian in reserve and a Razorwing Jet Fighter with 2 Lances. The White Scars have elected to try and go first, and it is Night Fight turn 1, as my Warlord trait is Night Attacker. With so much ignore cover, that wouldn't really make a difference. So we're going to try and seize the initiative. Do the pointy Dark Eldar seize? They do! That is a 6. Dark Eldar, turn 1. Dealt a massive blow to this White Scars army. The grotesques moved out with a prince, a Corsair prince and an Autarch, surrounded the Landspeeder Storm and assaulted it, killing all the occupants after the Warp Spiders had tried to explode it by shooting. The Venom, crazy shooting from the Venom, saw the Thunderfire cannon, and only the Thunderfire cannon, and put 2 wounds on it to kill the Thunderfire cannon's threat. Meanwhile, other shooting was ineffective, except for this Ravager that fired up into the sneaky Vindicator assassin and killed him with strength 8 shooting as the assassin failed his cover saves. And 1 hull point was put on that Fire Rhino by the Scatter Laser Bikes. So we're moving on to turn 2. We're going to see if this objective explodes on the Marines, and it doesn't. And now the Centurions arrive via drop pod assault. I did get 1 point for no escape. I killed a unit with the stealth or shrouded special rule, and I did get first blood. My other cards are Recon, which we need to get 2 more objectives to find out what they are, and Trophy Hunter. Sean has elected his captain and that objective as the trophies for that objective. Let's move on to White Scars turn 1.
Scars decided to focus on the weak flank and put pressure on the grotesques that were the nastiest unit in the Dark Eldar army.
White Scars turn 1. The White Scars trying to salvage something from the Dark Eldar springing their trap. Dropped a drop pod with ignore cover Centurions, killed both the Scatterbikes and the Scourge quite quickly, gaining them overwhelming firepower. Other shooting saw the grotesques pass an incredible amount of 6+ stealth saves from Night Fight and Feel No Pain saves. In the combat,
Autark lost 2 wounds in a challenge against the champion. I lost 1 grotesque and 2 more wounds on another grotesque. But they are fearless thanks to the Shard of Inaris, so they haven't gone anywhere. Other shooting saw 1 Cabalite warrior die from a Stormbolter. And that is it. We're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 2. Will the sabotage objective explode? It does not. The White Scars have gained 1 point for overwhelming firepower, and they still have Big Game Hunter and Secure Objective 5, which is the objective in the middle of the table. I still have Recon and Trophy Hunter, and my reserves are poised to come in. Do the sky-burning Corsairs come in? It means I get to re-roll this roll. They do not, and I'm re-rolling it to see if they arrive. They do. Does my Razorwing arrive? It does. And does my Lamian arrive? It does as well. I could have also used the Autark to modify any of those reserve rolls if I wanted to. So we're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 2. Razorwing came on, blasted the Centurions with a couple of missiles and some lances, combined fire with the Ravager, killed 1 Centurion, put 1 wound on another as the Librarian successfully looked out, sir. I was trying to shoot the Librarian out with another Strength 8 shot, but he passed his lookout, sir. The Corsairs dropped in, put 2 fusion guns into the Dreadnought, but he passed his invulnerable save. They used Reckless Abandon to move back and capture that objective to get me recon point, and now they're nicely hidden away there, which is nice. This big combat mess over here saw a lot of the combat squad die. My Autark die in the challenge against the chapter champion, and then the captain take 1 wound from a failing an armor save. So now I have 3 grotesques and a prince left, and I have the spiders that jumped in as well. The witches boosted from the flank onto this side here, and all the Cabalite warriors jumped into the empty raider and successfully killed 2 models out of that unit, while the Trueborn decided to start moving up the field, and the Lamian has come on and hidden behind here. So we'll see if the objective explodes once again at the end of turn 2. And it does. The White Scars decide to try and take out the grotesques once and for all. Okay, White Scars turn 2. This is quite the bloodbath. It's been crazy. The Rhino disembarked a bunch of tactical marines, killed 4 of the Reavers at the back there, but they held their morale. The Centurions regrouped after falling back and fired everything they could, even with twin linking from divination, put 1 hull point onto the Razorwing. So the Razorwing and the Ravager are still alive. Shooting from the Dreadnought and the remainders of the command squad killed 1 grotesque, and then in the combat, killed 2 grotesques, and in the combat, the Prince has challenged this champion and has lost his shadow field and has failed to do any damage. But the grotesque passed all his feel no pains against the Power Fist, and they, even though they're no longer fearless, have passed their morale test. So now we're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 3, the battlefield, swirling with the melee of combat. No points to the Space Wolves. They are sitting at 1 point, and the Dark Eldar are sitting at 3 points. So still anyone's game. I still have to secure objective 3 and Trophy Hunter, and I will get another card at the end of this turn. Turn 3. The Corsairs and the Razorwing Jet Fighter fired in, killed the Rhino, killed 2 of the Marines, and then they used their Reckless Abandon move to move back to capture objective secure, objective 3 from the Centurions in the drop pod, while the Ravager put 1 wound on 1 Centurion. This Venom boosted up to capture objective over here, and I tried to kill the captain to get both points for Trophy Hunter, but I only got the 1. While the objective secured witches jumped on objective 5 to capture it. And in combat, I finally killed the chapter champion. The Grotesque is alive with 1 wound remaining, and the Prince is alive with 2 wounds remaining. Everything else kind of moved around, jumped.
and ran. And we're moving on to White Scars, turn 3. What a bloodbath. Okay, end of turn 3. The Tech Marine burst out of cover, charged into that raider, blew it up, and didn't kill anyone. The one guy died in the flamer that hit the unit. The assault cannons mowed down all the witches that were out in the open, and then he charged in and put one more wound on the prince with Hammer of Wrath, and then the Power Fist did nothing, but I failed to do any damage to the character in combat. Shooting and assault saw the Ravager get immobilized and lose 2 health points, but it is still alive. And all the sky firing didn't kill, just forced my Razorwing into jinking. Other than that, the White Scars have bounced back with a capture objective 6 and a capture objective 5 and killing a tank. So we're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 4, and it's 6 points to 4 points. What's next? We shall see as these battle clash. Turn 4. The Warp Spiders jumped 17 inches, killed the Librarian and 1 Centurion. 1 is left alive with 1 wound left. Then he finished off the Ravager that had been immobilized, so it was still in combat. Then we had that Venom shoot a lot into those Marines, and they passed all their saves. The Tech Marine has taken 1 wound from the Cabalite Warriors, who stretched out to capture that objective there. Meanwhile, the Captain killed the last Grotesque and ran down the Prince in a sweeping advance with an 11 rolled on his initiative test, which was crazy. The Trueborn moved and ran to take objective all the way over there to give me supremacy. And I tried to get Psychological Warfare, but that failed. And the other one is to score objective 6. So, a D3 coming from High Command for scoring supremacy for the Dark Eldar. That is 2 points. And then I will be discarding Psychological Warfare because there's not much that I can kill that's left. And we'll be moving on to Space Wolf, turn 4. And by Space Wolf, I mean White Scars, because that's what I'm playing against. White Scars, turn 4. The 2 units annihilated the Venom, just destroyed him. But the series took objective 4. The other objectives were 1 and 5. The Captain failed to cut down all the Dark Eldar warriors in combat, so he was unable to take objective 5. And objective 1, the Trueborn held firm and did not run away at the face of the Tech Marine onslaught, while the 1 Centurion tried to charge in to lock the Warp Spiders in, and he got killed in Overwatch. So we're moving on to turn 5. The Razorwing is back on the table, and it is going on to the end of the game. End of turn 5. We had the Captain killed 1 more Cabalite, but they're fearless now, and then he hit and run out of combat, and they consolidated, capturing objective 5. The Warp Spiders blinked up, finished off the 3-man unit of Tactical Marines, and then jumped back to objective 6, and I had 2 capture objective 6, bringing my total up for another 3 points. Meanwhile, the Tech Marine failed his hit and run against the Trueborn, so he's stuck in combat again over there at the backfield. And the Razorwing failed to do any damage on the Contemplar as it arrived, and lances bounced harmlessly off its helm. So moving on to turn 5 for the White Scars. He's captured objective 3 with the drop pod, and he's captured objective 5 with his commander. So he's gained another 2 points, bringing his total to 8. And now the Dark Eldar are at 11. We still have a combat going on here with Trueborn, but there's not much left on the table. Meanwhile, the Dreadnought took a pot shot, killed 2 of the Warp Spiders that failed to blink far enough to get out of line of sight. And we're moving on to see if the game finishes. It continues. Turn 6. The Warp Spiders kind of hobbled back and hid behind this wall. The Razorwing failed to do any damage to the Dreadnought. And this combat, the Tech Marine failed to hit and run again, and nothing happened. So we're moving on to White Scars turn 6. Secure objective twice has come out.
So it's psychological warfare, which isn't happening, but he can try and get objective 1, which is back here. Okay, let's move on to turn 6. We have the White Scars Dreadnought stay still, get Skyfire, blow the flyer out of the sky, and then the captain came in to help against the Trueborn, capturing objective 1 twice. So we're sitting at 11 points for the White Scars to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points. 12 points, 13 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 11 to 12 points. Does the game continue? I'm going to let Sean roll this because it does matter. And the game continues to a final turn 7. Wow. Okay, so Dark Eldar got secure objective 2 again, which the Lamian took. And I was trying to kill the drop pod, but the Wolf Spiders failed to do anything. I needed secure objective 4 again, and overwhelming firepower, so that's why I tried to kill the drop pod. It didn't happen, and the Wolf Spiders didn't jump far enough to get behind enemy lines. So, we're now sitting at 13 points to 11. Let's see what the Space Wolves can do, because they can't table. What are the cards?
Assassinate.
Okay, that's not going to happen.
Secure objective 4.
Which is going to happen.
Secure objective 6.
Which is over here. That's not... Oh, we'll see what happens. I doubt it'll be able to happen. We'll see the measurements. Okay, so to get the last points, the captain boosted over to capture objective 4. The Mortis Dreadnought moved up and needed to roll a decent roll. Needed to roll a 3 to get within 3 inches of that objective to run, and rolled a 1. Okay, so that Dreadnought failed to move into 3 inches of that objective by rolling a 1 on his run roll. The Dark Eldar have taken victory with a 13-point win against a 12-point loss. Wow, I have a Lamian left alive and 3 Warp Spiders left alive. He has a Drop Pod, a Mortis Pattern Dreadnought, a Tech Marine with 1 wound left, and a Captain with 2 wounds left. What a game, Sean. Any final comments to this game?
Seizing the initiative really, really hurt. As always, I struggle against your Dark Eldar with my Space Marines. If I could do anything different, I don't think I did anything terrible. Losing first turn kind of sucked, but other than that, it was a great game.
Yeah, seizing the initiative was great, but even though, it just shows how close and tight a game can be if you play to the objectives and the missions. We had a lot of fun. Make sure you check the links down below and the tactical corner that happens after the game. If you like the channel, like, subscribe, and welcome to the new year of more gaming. Much appreciated. And this is Skari, your grateful host, signing out.
Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner. Today, 1500 points of Dark Eldar faced 1500 points of White Scar Space Marine in a Highlander style game. Highlander format means you take 1 of each selection. You're not allowed any duplicates, so only 1 Venom, 1 Raider, for example. The game was a Maelstrom of War, 3 cards each turn, just a basic Maelstrom, and the Dark Eldar seizing the initiative really determined the pace of the game. I was able to alpha strike the largest threat in the army against me, in my opinion, which was the Thunderfire cannon, and then was able to take on the scouts that had scouted close to the my main line with the grotesques. Being able to do this and preventing the drop pod from coming in and doing damage allowed me to dictate where the game was going to happen. My opponent had to react to the game itself by putting the drop pod off to the flank and focusing on my jet bikes that had scatter lasers and my Scourge.
In retrospect, I should have kept the Scourge in reserve. I always like keeping them in reserve to kill tanks later on in the game once my opponent has a lot of units that are providing additional pressure on their army. The Corsairs proved to be interesting. They did fail in their main mission at the beginning of the game, but towards the end, they did prove their value scooting around the table and taking objectives and proving their worth. The Grotesques were probably the MVPs. They are tough, they have feel no pain, and they have very good weapons. I prefer to use them in a Grotesquerie formation from the Coven book, but in this Highlander format, I was unable to take the required second squad and second raider that I would have needed. Now, the Corsair Prince and the Autarch worked well together in the unit as allies, and this is a small glimpse into the project that I'm working towards, using Corsairs, Harlequins, Eldar, Coven, and Dark Eldar all together to form a single entity in terms of gameplay. Now, mission-wise, this game came down to the wire to turn 7, with the Space Marines being able to play the War of Attrition and slowly working their way back in terms of points. With a 1-point difference between the Dark Eldar and the Space Marines, the Dark Eldar take the win in this nail-biter of a game. Make sure you stay tuned. Let us know what you think. Check out the links below for additional content and, of course, the blog. This is Skari, your grateful host, and thank you to everybody that supports the channel, liking, sharing, and subscribing. You're awesome. Skari out.